Willkommen, bienvenue, welcome to the Daily Beast podcast. I'm Joanna Coles, Chief Content Officer of the Daily Beast.
And I am Samantha Bee, Chief Content Officer of RFK Jr.'s wardrobe of thick, tight, sweaty workout jeans.
This is the Daily Beast podcast where Sam and I break down the people and the stories of the week that tickle our fancy. This week in the download, we're talking Kimberly Guilfoyle's apparent exile to Greece, Prince Andrew's self-exile to Bahrain. We're also welcoming our beast of the week, Stephanie Ruhle, the acclaimed MSNBC anchor and all-around badass. And as a holiday bonus, we've got a fun conversation with my old friend, Dan Bucatinsky, the lovable actor featured in the smash movie, actually the global #1 movie on Netflix, Our Little Secret, with Lindsay Lohan.
But first, you had your holiday party last night, and I heard you were cutting a rug.
Cutting a rug? What is that, from the 50s?
It
From
is.
the 50s.
Well, you said tickles are fancy.
Okay, so we're doing 50s jargon.
We're doing
this
50s,
week.
but we used to say, in our family, we would say, it tickles me pink, which I think is dirty.
Oh.
Isn't that dirty?
Well, what is the pink?
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to say. But I will tell you what tickles my pink. No, I won't. I'll tell you what tickles my fancy is actually RFK Jr. working out in his jeans. Like, in a way that makes me throw up.
I was going to say,
disgusting.
I would be very nervous if you were excited by RFK working out, because he's working out topless, for those who haven't seen the pictures,
Yes.
which were everywhere.
Everywhere.
He's also doing a lot of certainly topless stuff, because there was that video of him for Cheryl Hines's beauty line.
He's constantly topless and doing pull-ups and chin-ups.
And he was in the shower in her
jeans.
video for her body cream, I think, or soap.
Do you think that they work out topless in their jeans together?
I hope so. I hope so.
No.
The couple that work out topless stay together,
They
which
do.
is not obviously what he did with his last couple of wives.
I have so many notes about what we would call his jeans line if he were ever to create them.
Go on. I think...
Well, my top choice is yeasty jeans. My top choice is yeasty jeans, but also... We were wondering in our pre-meeting, when we actually do discuss the things that we're going to discuss on this podcast, I know that's hard to believe if you're listening right now.
Because I don't remember us discussing yeasty jeans.
Well, I remember us discussing in detail how often we think that he washes his jeans. And I think the answer is not very often.
I bet RFK Jr. is one of those people that thinks if you just leave your jeans for a few days, they self-clean.
They self-clean.
Like cashmere is supposed to do.
Cashmere is supposed to, it does not self-clean.
Cashmere is supposed to self-clean.
Okay,
You just take your cashmere sweater off, you leave it for a few days, and it's supposed to self-clean. I'm confident RFK Jr. thinks that's what his jeans do.
Well, his jeans have a salt crust. And
they probably stand on their own.
I'm sure they do, and I'm sure they're trying to run out the door, just like
Of course they are.
just like the rest of
Trying
us.
to get vaccinated
my
from him.
God! Now, speaking of running out the door, Kimberly Guilfoyle exiled to Greece.
This is such a...
Wow.
Can we just have a moment? Because I grew up, I grew up in Europe, so I spent some time on the Greek islands, but actually, I feel aligned to Greece because my parents' first album was by a Greek singer called Nana Mouskouri.
Oh, Joanna, I remember Nana Mouskouri well. We had an Austin Mini in our family, and we had an 8-track tape player in the Austin Mini, and we had exactly one 8-track, and that was Nana Mouskouri with her big, thick glasses and her face mole with little hairs coming out of it.
Which I think in Greece is a sex symbol.
I think so. She's the Britney Spears of Greece in the 1970s. Do you remember the song?
Well, I remember White Rose of Athens, which is what the album was called. And my parents proudly displayed it. And the interesting thing about it was they'd actually bought it for a friend who was ill and then died. And so my dad bought the album and we had it propped up as, because consumerism was just beginning then. And it was a sign of... Well, it was a sign.
So you re-inherited
We
a
re-inherited.
Nana Muscuri album
Yeah.
that you had given.
And I remember it was a black album, or the front was black. She was there in a white dress, the white rose of Athens, and then there was a red rose sort of artistically put to one side.
Sure. Nana never leaves you. She just boomerangs right back into your life. Well, let me blow your mind right now. Love is a rose, but you better not pick it. It only grows when it's on the vine. Handful of thorns and you know you've missed it. You lose your love when you say the word mine. And then you clap. I don't remember the rest.
I don't remember that.
Joanna turned all red.
That is just, well, it was just like the best
Can
moment of our podcast history
Can
together.
you imagine Kimberly Guilfoyle getting that call? I mean, it really is. Isn't that, I mean, we all were so outraged about lots of people were outraged about Joe Biden pardoning his son, but isn't this the ultimate pardon? Just exiling your son's ex-girlfriend to a lonely Greek island? She must have been like, who do I know who's Greek? Who do I know who's Greek?
Zach Galifianakis.
Zach Galifianakis.
I mean, I could see he could become very helpful in the Greek or the American embassy in Athens. I'm assuming is where she's going to be. Where I have to say, it's not great air quality in Athens. It gets very hot in the summer.
Get Maria Menounos on the phone.
Okay, who else is there? Ariana Stasinopoulos, nay Stasinopoulos, Huffington.
Sissipas, yes.
Sissipas, the tennis player.
That's
now that
good.
would be. I could see them making some sweet Greek fun together.
Of course, Michael Dukakis. She doesn't know that Aristotle Onassis is long past, so she's like, get me one of the Onassises.
George Stephanopoulos.
I don't think that he'll be receiving a call.
It's just magnificent. So
Yes.
I want to go to Greece, lose my passport, and then have to drop in at the embassy and see if she's there. Do you think she'll be behind the counter stamping things?
Of course, that's what one does.
She's going to throw great parties. There's going to be a lot of fig leaves and what are they called? Dolmades.
Dolmades. What's going on with Prince Andrew?
Oh, so Tom Sykes is our royal correspondent based in the UK. And we have an extraordinary story about Prince Andrew, who once again has chosen badly in the Friends department. And you will remember, close observers, myopic readers of the Daily Beast on the royal family will know that Prince Andrew has been in trouble largely because, as he told the infamous BBC interviewer, which has now been the subject of not one, but 2 movies, that he was so honourable, he kept his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein going a little bit longer than it should have done. He was just so honourable, he couldn't break up that friendship. Well, now he's got a new friend. That's good, because he's been exiled from the royal family. He's got a new friend who, in fact, turns out to be a Chinese spy.
Oh, my God.
And what is so fascinating about this is the emails that have come to light between the Chinese spy and one of Andrew's advisors. And it turns out that the Chinese spy very quickly realizes that, in his words, Andrew is desperate. And I wanted to read, this is in a letter from one of the advisors to the alleged Chinese spy. I hope it's clear to you where you sit with my principal, i.e. Andrew, and indeed his family. You should never underestimate the strength of that relationship. Outside of his closest internal confidence, you sit at the very top of a tree that many, many people would like to be on.
Well, I hope he takes great comfort in all those corgis that he inherited.
He did. He inherited the corgis after the Queen died.
They're his only friends.
Okay, so I just want to read one more bit of it, which is that this is from internal documents from the spy's phone. And there are, one of the statements is obviously looking for advice on how to deal with Andrew. Important, manage expectations, really important, not to set too high expectations. He is in a desperate situation and will grab onto anything.
Oh my God. I would die on the spot if I read about myself in an email that someone said that I was so desperate that I would cling to literally anything.
This is, and you're, I mean, with greatest respect, you are not a member of the British royal family.
I certainly am not. Can you imagine what his family is thinking? They're like, Andrew, why don't you just take the longest walk off that terribly short pier? And when you Just start swimming toward the horizon. Don't come home.
I mean, this is devastating for King Charles.
Devastating.
Because it's his younger brother, and I'm sure he must feel to some extent protective of him. But there are now rumours that he may move to the Middle East and do a Juan Carlos, who, as you remember, when he was found with his hand in the Spanish royal family till, moved off to the UAE. Mm-hmm. And I think there are now rumours that Andrew will move to Bahrain.
Well, a lot of people have pet tigers there. Watch those corgis.
We're thrilled to be joined by this week's Beast of the Week, Stephanie Ruhle, the vivacious senior business analyst and anchor of MSNBC's The 11th Hour, who is known for her energetic interviews with titans in business, politics and entertainment. Serena Williams, Martha Stewart, and Stephanie even got one of the first one-on-one exclusive interviews with Kamala Harris as the Democratic nominee. She was picked for good reason. She's also appeared on screen with Trump, with Biden, with Jamie Dimon, Bill Gates, Gwyneth Paltrow, Kobe Bryant, who she says was one of her most thoughtful interviews, Diddy, who was one of the rudest, Kanye, the craziest, Joanna Coles, and Samantha Bee. The best ever. Stephanie is so engaged and present in her interviews that she practically jumps out of the screen. In fact, someone once told me that the reason you were so good on television was that you looked as if you were crawling across the desk to get to the reader and collar them and say,
I feel that way.
And say that, watch me. So we can't wait to talk to her about everything going on this week, specifically ABC's pricey settlement of the Trump defamation lawsuit. Stephanie, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I did want to start with someone else that you've interviewed, Jeff Bezos, who's going down to Mar-a-Lago today. We're recording this on a Wednesday. What do you think he and Donald Trump are going to talk about?
I actually interviewed Jeff Bezos the day he launched his rocket, the day he went to outer space. Listen, Jeff Bezos
came back pretty quickly, right?
He did.
11 minutes.
He did.
11 minutes.
11 minutes. Listen, he's going down there to do what everyone else is. And I'm not going to say kiss the ring. They're going down there to play ball. And while a ton of people are very angry to see all these business leaders go down there, I don't know why we thought that they're anything but pragmatic, right? They lived through Donald Trump the first term. They all witnessed Republicans versus Bob Iger and Disney. And not only does no one want to be in that position, they all know that Donald Trump is completely transactional, right? They're going through, they're just wrapping up the Biden administration where if you ran a business, if you are successful, chances are you only got more successful and your business grew in the last 4 years. However, it's safe to say you didn't have a direct line into the White House. Lena Khan, who runs the FTC, was not open to your ideas of mergers and acquisitions, and they know that Donald Trump is. And I'm not saying that as a positive or a negative. Most things he doesn't even have a view on, right? A year ago, Donald Trump was anti-cryptocurrency, right? I'm not sure he knows what AI stands for. But one of the reasons I think guys like a Jeff Bezos or certainly an Elon Musk know that one of the most important transformational things that are going to happen in the next 5 years is what artificial intelligence is going to look like. What does Donald Trump think? He thinks nothing. He doesn't care. But he will happily hand over power, control, opinions from any one of these people if they give him what he wants. We don't know what that is. Chances are it's something having to do with personal business or just kissing his ring and giving him more power, which he loves.
Well, and we know that he wants funds for the inauguration. So we saw Dara at the CEO of Uber, whose last name you can pronounce and I probably can't, gave $2 million to the inauguration fund. Mark Zuckerberg has given $1 million to the inauguration fund. So that's clearly one way of appeasing Trump. The thing I wanted to ask you is Donald Trump famously is actually bad at running businesses.
Yes.
You know, Trump Water, Trump University, Trump Steaks. So what did they think of him as a business person?
They don't have to think about him as a business person. They have figured him out. He's completely transactional. And when you talk about these people that have infinite wealth, what they don't have is infinite power. They have regulators. They have the SEC that could be on them at any given moment. They've got regulations standing in the way of how they want to grow their businesses and change their businesses. And they know that Donald Trump is purchasable, right? And the fact that you could have a bat phone into the Oval Office That's worth a lot of money.
Do you think it was an investment mistake for me to buy you both Donald Trump gold watches for Christmas?
I wanted the sneakers, but I'll take the watch.
Okay.
But the thing that I think is so
I
interesting.
wanted the Bible. I'm just saying
Yes,
I
there
wanted
you
the
go.
Donald Trump authorized Bible.
Still a chance. In 2016, you did not see these people go to the inauguration. You did not see American designers line up to dress Melania. And even after Trump won, CEOs were walking a tightrope. Should we join this business council? Should we go to the White House? Because they knew they were going to get backlash from their employees, from their customers, probably not their. Oh, it could end up being their shareholders if customers would have left. They feared boycotts. That fear seems to be gone. And it's not like Donald Trump won in a landslide. He definitively won. And yes, Republicans gained control of Congress, though Mike Johnson has the thinnest margin than you've seen in a very long time. I just find it so interesting that it was such a complicated thing for business leaders to interface with Trump when he was president last time, right? Even for a CEO to say on record, well, Donald Trump seems to be pro-business, let's see what that's going to look like. If you said something like that, you'd face serious backlash. Somehow that's all dissipated.
Well, I feel like everybody's just playing the hand of cards that they've been dealt now. Now everyone's just like, well, we got 4 years, whether we like it or not. Let's do this thing. Let's survive.
And they fear, in the same way that CEOs fear the backlash that Bob Iger got, people don't want it.
Right.
Well, let's talk about the Bob Iger moment and the DeSantis decision, obviously the governor of Florida, to go after Disney because of the Don't Say Gay bill. This week we saw ABC settling with Donald Trump for $60 million settlement after Donald Trump accused George Stephanopoulos of saying that he had raped someone. That's not what he was found guilty of. Talk to us about that decision. What do you think? Is it as chilling as the media is making out?
I can't really opine on the details of why specifically they settled, right? We don't know the ins and outs of that. However, to a company like Disney, $15 million is not a lot of money. They're insured for it. There's a very, very good...
And it's a company that's worth $200 billion.
And there's a very good chance they could say, in this complete rage-fueled environment, we don't want to have to face day in and day out of even random emails being exposed, even if they say nothing much to it, just embarrassing emails, day-to-day emails that any of us could have between our colleagues.
Emails at Disney going back and forth discussing Donald Trump, probably in preparation for the interview.
Yeah, or not. Who knows what they would be? It's easy to say the company could say, we need to move forward. We need to get into 2025 and move on. However, for the media environment, for the rest of the world, when they see a settlement like this, there is a chilling effect, right? Because what happens immediately after? Well, you see Donald Trump say, I'm going to sue the Des Moines Register. I'm going to sue the pollster who put out a poll just before the election that said women in Iowa are going to vote for Kamala Harris. Listen, she and the Des Moines Register were already proven wrong. And they already submitted all of their data. And they're saying, listen, we will fight Donald Trump. We will protect our First Amendment right. But who knows how deep their pockets are? And we can all say, listen, a judge is going to throw this out. By the time you get to a judge, tens of thousands of dollars are spent in legal fees. So if you're a local news organization, right, and you're saying, I want to accurately cover this administration, like all of us are going to, it's a scary time. So for all of us, this is a warning. You better have your T's crossed. You better have your I's dotted, which I actually think is a positive because we need to do that. But yeah, there's definitely a chilling effect.
Well, it's a cry for accuracy in the media, right? But
which is a good thing.
Yeah, which totally is a good thing.
Except that, okay, accuracy is very important. We know that it is critical, but a defamation lawsuit can still be brought that is a terrible inconvenience that you could absolutely fight in court, but you're not going to want to. When those winged monkeys are unleashed upon you, it is just like, it is a terrible experience, and it can ruin a lot of lives.
Being involved in a lawsuit is
terrible.
an absolute disaster. However, I think people are going to absolutely cover this White House tough as nails with accuracy.
So what's your interpretation of the Disney decision then? It's pragmatic business. This is a huge company that's got it's got parks, it's got all sorts of business. This is a small distraction from its news division.
That is my take. However, I really can't opine on why exactly did they do this. We don't know, right? We don't know what happened there, but from a business perspective, it makes sense that they would say, settle this, move on.
And what does it mean for George Stephanopoulos?
Listen, he's an extraordinary journalist. He's always been an extraordinary journalist. And the idea that this is his company not supporting him, I don't think that's the case. If his company wasn't supporting him, he wouldn't be on the air. He's on the air every single day. And they just said, yes, we're going to settle this. Here's $15 million and move on. I don't know how he's feeling, so I can't opine on that. But I don't think this shows that Disney isn't behind him. I don't think this shows that he's not a great journalist. He is.
Do you sense that this is emboldening, though? Because I do feel like in the last...
For Trump?
Yeah, because in the last 24 hours, it feels like this brought him a lot of joy and satisfaction.
Yes.
And so I think this is going to accelerate and really I think it's going to be kind of a nonstop defamation accusation.
Yes, look what's happened in the last
years.
24 hours to Liz Cheney.
Yeah.
Right now
Yes.
they're going after Liz Cheney and the January 6th committee. This is going to be a long and arduous few years, and it'll be unfortunate that Republicans now have all of this control. If they end up spending their time just going down litigious rabbit holes, which, by the way, this isn't new for Donald Trump. This has always been his signature.
This is standard behavior.
Okay?
This is what he's done to people he goes into business with.
Dozens and dozens of lawsuits, right? You can do an entire podcast series of contractors and subcontractors over the years who Donald Trump had a financial dispute, didn't pay the bill, underpaid the bill. So Donald Trump getting into a lawsuit is not new news. The question is, how are people going to interface with it?
Right.
Well, and also, how does this play out over a period of the next 2 years until the midterms?
It all depends on what happens, because a lot of people said, we are voting for change. We want something that's different. And so if he spends the next 2 years just going down rabbit holes of the Des Moines Register and Liz Cheney, that's not going to help people's lives get better, right? At the end of the day, people want to be financially secure, physically safe, socially free. And they want the government to ensure that that happens. People right now feel angry, they feel disappointed, despite the fact that we have the most prosperous country in the world, and they said, I'm voting for something different. And now it's sort of like, all right, Republicans, you've got the ball. What you gonna do?
So let's talk about that disconnect, because actually, we all love that book, Factfulness, which actually talks about the fact that for the most part, our lives are much better than they were 15 years ago, 20 years ago, certainly 50 years ago. And yet there is such a disconnect with how people talk about their lives and how they say they feel about their lives. Plus, we know that a lot of people say they have mental health issues, they're living with tremendous anxiety, whatever the pressures of that. I know this is something you feel strongly about.
I feel so strongly, because I think at the root of this is the business of rage, right? Forever and ever, we thought, sex sells. Sure, sex sells. Rage is what sells,
Yes,
right?
it's
And there is an
activating.
enormous business complex out there that have identified that people are angry and people feel alone. And the algorithm is now feeding you specific content to get you angrier. We always have this feeling of life's not fair. Even if I'm doing well, even if I am going on spring break to Florida, I'm going to go on social media and see that you're in Italy, and I'm going to see that you're in Botswana, and life's not fair. And so what the algorithm is doing is taking the things that you are annoyed about, that you're feeling a little unhappy about, and they're cranking them up more and more and more. And it has small impacts in our lives, and then it has huge ones.
So,
think about what happened just a few blocks from here. 2.5 weeks ago in New York City, a CEO was walking into a business conference and was gunned down. He was shot in the back. That doesn't take away from the fact that the health insurance is deeply flawed in this country, that we have a sick country, that people are being treated terribly. You can put that in category A. But in category B, a human being was gunned down, and people are celebrating it and treating him like a folk hero. And the normalization of this violence has come from this ratcheting up in rage, in the business of rage. Some people look at who he's following and they say, he follows Elon Musk. He follows Tucker Carlson. He's a madman MAGA. Someone says, oh, he went to Penn. He was indoctrinated by woke Ivy League professors. He's a Bernie Sanders anarchist. And the crazy thing is, we're not taking a set of facts and saying, let me absorb this and let me see who this complicated person is, right? We have this moment where we need a person to fit a narrative that fits our current political views, and that's a huge problem.
So you pointed out that Donald Trump had changed his mind about crypto. He's also changed his mind about TikTok. So initially he thought it should be banned. Then amazingly, there was bipartisan support to actually get it banned. The day it has to be sold or divested from Chinese ownership is the 19th of January. Where are you on TikTok? What do you think should happen?
What's amazing is I love when Donald Trump was asked about TikTok with my colleague Kristen Welker, and he said, TikTok, I did really well on TikTok in the election.
They love me on TikTok.
They love me. The youngins, they love me. I think TikTok is just part of this problem. We have no regulation on our social media platforms. Ask millions of people on the street, where do you get your information? Where do you get your news? And they're going to tell you social media. And
well,
these
I think
social
they're
media,
going to tell you TikTok, actually.
You're right.
And
yes.
I do
yes.
think TikTok's different to Facebook I should declare I'm on the board of Snapchat here, but being owned by an adversary is very unusual. To have a media company owned by an adversary is unheard of in America. There's certainly no reciprocity. You cannot get Google in China, you can't get Snapchat, you can't get Instagram. So why are we allowing them here? We wouldn't allow the Russians to own NBC or ABC. What is TikTok doing here?
If you remember in the Robert Mueller report, I want to say it was in the first few paragraphs when he was talking about Russian interference. He said, foreign interference had one goal in this election, to sow discord and chaos. And that is exactly what happens on TikTok, right? The most famous TikTokers out there are just spewing things that aren't true to get people fired up and angry. But the amazing thing is, lots of Americans would say, well, I don't care. I love my TikTok. I love my cooking videos. I love my dance videos. And when you watch that and you step back, you start to feel like, I'm in a movie right now. This is like watching a suspense thriller of people saying, yes, I know I'm being poisoned, but it tastes so good. So the question of do the right thing, come on, like whether it's
I need
ownership
those sheep
of
mask
TikTok.
videos. So how would you regulate them? Because the complexity around this is, of course, how do you regulate these these companies, which we know is complex.
Well, do we? I mean, all the people who are in charge now have no interest in regulating these companies anymore. I mean, all of these people have been so elevated. I just don't see it happening.
But no, we're unlikely to get regulation there or anywhere else. The fact that a traditional news organization, everything that we say and do goes through legal and standards, that we have to own what we say or we are liable for it, we face this scrutiny. And I'm not saying it from a place of envy. I'm saying it from a place of just corporate social responsibility.
And the analogy always used is a phone call, that you can't blame the phone companies for conversations that people have on the phone. Similarly, with social media, there are billions of messages going every single day. How do you physically, or even what is the mechanism for regulating it?
You know what, Joe? You start to figure it the hell out. Right? These we keep talking about these companies like they're these baby little companies with 32-year-olds running
Stephanie,
them.
Lots of people have tried to think about this. How do you regulate it? You just said, let's regulate them. How do you do it? What would you do? You have to put some level of standards on this. You have to actually designate, this is news content, this is not news content. The audience should know immediately where this information comes from, where it's sourced, and what it is. But the information is coming from regular users, regular people, many of whom have set up as newsfluencers who know nothing. Yes. So how do you make them do it? There are millions of them. How do you actually physically impose that? If someone wants to be a news influencer on your site, well, then they are going to have to show, here's my standards. Here's the person who vets all of the content. Here's my sources. Like the same thing I have to do, saying I'm a news organization. And if they don't want to do that, well, then put them in a different category on your site that I'm here for dance videos.
Personally,
it's super expensive and onerous, but we keep looking at these companies like they're these baby little startups with these hipsters and hoodies. These are the masters of the universe.
I would put age requirements on it, first of all. I would put a minimum age on it. And I would also remove anonymity forever.
Correct.
Okay,
forever.
And I would just say that almost the first thing that you see when you go outside is kids in strollers with cell phones, because parents are exhausted, they're working 2 jobs, and the first thing they do is hand their kids a screen. And the kid is incredibly smart about working through it. How do you grandfather it in if you bring in age regulations and you say 16, which is what they're saying in Australia, right? How do you physically make that happen when you've had when you've got 13-year-olds who are already on it?
Well, you're always going to have that, but you won't have kids getting their own accounts at the age of 8. Like, I understand that it's not going to solve every problem, but it may solve problems moving forward.
And you're starting to, right? When Jonathan Haidt's research came out and his book came out, you're actually starting to see some of that movement, right? So I have an 11-year-old daughter who forever and ever has been counting the days to get a phone when she's 12. She's no longer getting one when she's 12. She's getting one when she's 14. She is devastated about it. In many ways, she feels like a pilgrim in her school who doesn't know TikTok dances and is one step behind. And that is a difficult battle in my house. But Jonathan Haidt writing that book, parents across this country starting a movement saying, guess what? My kid just needs a flip phone. This whole argument that I need to have a smartphone, bullshit.
That? So I wanted to do that also with my children, and I found that there is always one family who is the weakest link. So the parents will say, you know what, we're going to put we have a line in the sand, you can't have a phone until you're 13, and then some parent gives their kid the phone at 11, and then it all begins to crumble.
You know what I really think it is? It's not like you're going to solve every problem in every family. You're just not going to do that. That's not happening. But the more friction you can put in the way, the better it is. The harder they have to work to get the material they're not necessarily entitled to, it makes it better. It just makes it marginally better. What I want to know is how much is the Daily Beast contributing to the inauguration campaign and the library?
Well, the Daily Beast would like to be sufficiently solvent. Did businesses also contribute to Biden's inauguration?
Some did.
Is this fairly straightforward procedure?
Listen, the thing that's not straightforward is nobody showed up for Trump in 2016, right? Even Mark Zuckerberg just a few months ago was like, we're staying out of this. They have all changed their tune, which they have a right to do. The one caution I would give people as everyone is coming unglued, saying, oh my God, all these people are in bed with Trump. They might not be in bed with Trump. What they might be doing is playing the game. But we don't know what's happening in any of those rooms. And we do know that Donald Trump is a chronic exaggerator. So they could just be in there covering their bases to make sure they're not a bullseye. But tariffs are something he can impose. And he's learned it from other countries. It is the greatest way to pick winners and losers. Not just to say, I'm going to punish China and impose tariffs, but to say, I'm going to give you an exception. Right? So think about all these businesses or countries that are there right now, and you manufacture something, and Trump is going to say to you, I'm going to impose tariffs on all of your foreign competitors, but not you. How incredible that you would end up with a de facto monopoly. And so that's what this tariff game is. And, you know, fans of Donald Trump would say, this is how he negotiates. And critics would say, this is going to be a disaster. We'll soon find out.
Well, Sam feels this very keenly as a Canadian.
Oh, yeah.
You're Canadian?
I am.
Well, can I just tell you? Mm-hmm. I just went on vacation to Canada.
Oh, you did? Where'd you go?
I went to Niagara Falls, first of all,
Fantastic.
which is like Reno meets the Poconos, right next door to like a beautiful natural wonder, and I loved it.
Sure, great.
And then I did the full Christmas market tour, Montreal, Toronto, and now my new favorite city, Quebec.
Oh,
which is
Quebec
sort
City
of
is
Quebec
beautiful.
City is kind of like, and it's not going to sound nice, but it is. It has this like Paris meets Poland energy, and I just loved it. I couldn't have had more maple syrup wine, whiskey, or meat and cheese products. I had the
Yes.
greatest time.
So
is
would you
a
be in
great
favour of
city.
it becoming the 51st state?
That is so absurd.
That is
so absurd.
absurd.
But look at Justin Trudeau at risk right now. Look at Germany's government falling apart. And I take all of this back to the business of rage. This rage that we're experiencing, largely fueled by social media, isn't just hitting here in the US, it's around the world. It's why you've seen incumbents lose election after election. Like I said it in the beginning, we are the most prosperous country in the world. And it is not to say that there aren't groups suffering. We broke records on Cyber Monday and Black Friday. So do not tell me that this country, listen, we've experienced the largest inflation spike that we have in our adult lives, and that stings, and people do not like it. But this country largely, look at unemployment, look at wages, we are doing well. That doesn't match how badly we feel, and that's happening across the world. And that is fueled by rage.
Yes.
You all just took deep breaths.
No,
We did that.
I
You
know.
needed
We did
that.
take
We
deep
did
breaths.
take deep breaths.
Listen, as a Canadian, I am dead afraid that eventually the United States is going to come for all the water because there are a lot of golf courses in Arizona that need sprinkles. And so, I mean, I have my own hesitations. It'll eventually be the 51st state, probably, but hopefully when I'm
Well, if
long
it is,
dead.
no. On the contrary, I'm going to vote for you for president of your or governor of the state, as Donald Trump is now calling Justin
you.
Trudeau
Oh,
governor.
God, oh my God, Canadians are
It's
all
such
in
a silly flex that we're all falling into that headline. Oh my goodness, he called it the 51st state. Move on.
Yeah.
People voted for Donald Trump because they want their lives to get stronger and better, and they think he's going to do that. You know what my hope is for 2025?
Please.
Even people with the strongest of opinions to have open minds and hearts, right? The smartest people out there are people willing to change their minds. And I just think it's my plea to people in 2025, right? Like we actually have a band of nerves in the middle of our head, right? It's called corpus callosum. Humans have them, whales have them, rodents and bats.
Great.
We're the only ones. No other mammals have them. We have the ability to have reason, so we don't have to act immediately on instinct. So my hope is in 2025, actually let's connect the right and the left side of the brain. Let's have some reason, let's lower the temperature, and let's actually try to improve things.
I love that. Those are my favorite mammals.
There you go. Us, whales, rodents, and bats. It's a great group.
Special delivery.
It wasn't a dancer.
It wasn't
This is
quite a
from
dancer.
One of my favourite stores in the village. They've sent me a little joke. This is a Christmas package for all of us. This is the first joke. Cole's Christmas pudding.
Fantastic.
Oh,
Oh, I love it. Christmas crackers.
Christmas
I do love
crackers.
Christmas
I
crackers.
love
Christmas crackers. And then this is the pièce de résistance. These are English sweetmeats called mince pies, which I want you both
What's
to
in
try
that?
because they are delicious. It's not mince meat.
I feel like they weigh 5
sweet
pounds
meat?
each.
No, sweetmeats it's all good. It's mince pies. They're delicious. They're sugary English treats, which should
But
be
that-
had
that's not a
warm
meat
with
product
brandy.
in it?
No, it's not a meat
try
product.
it.
It's sweet. It's dried fruits. They are
Thank
absolutely
you.
delicious.
Wow.
And Tea and Sympathy makes the best, and it's a place where British people go.
I like that
to
place.
celebrate all British things.
Yum.
And
It's
Sam is a
delicious.
baker, so this is my Christmas.
are?
This is
Delicious.
my Christmas treat for the two of you.
Yeah, I do love to bake. This is great.
Right? Mince
Love
pies.
it. Thank
and
you.
They
I like
can
to
also
bake.
be eaten warm with brandy butter or just regular butter or cheese.
I brought for the two of you.
cheese.
I made honey butter, and I brought you both some. Yeah. No,
I
I
don't
brought
believe
whipped
you
honey.
made
Whipped honey.
it.
No, I did.
don't believe you made it.
You're 100% wrong.
Wow.
To my bag outside
Thank
because I
you.
bought gallons of honey when I was in Canada. So I made whipped honey.
Amazing. Oh my God, thank you.
There you go.
Oh, look at
There
that.
you go. Whipped honey for you
very
two.
much.
So
Oh my goodness, this is
Christmassy. Oh my
fantastic.
Thank you very much.
Thank
This is
you.
fantastic. So
I was
we
ma-
should also pull a cracker, shouldn't we?
this.
Look how beautiful these
This
are.
is so beautiful. Oh my gosh.
Spread
I
it on.
cannot
Ad
wait.
hoc
Bread
Christmas
and then you are.
celebration. So if you need
Thank
crackers
you.
or you need mince
I'm
pies,
going to take this out.
my friends at Tea and Sympathy will take care of you. And you
Wow.
will get to celebrate in an English fashion, which is
Okay.
different to an American fashion.
Wait, do you do Christmas crackers on Christmas Day or the day before?
We do them whenever.
You just
It's always
whenever.
good to have a box of crackers, but I do them
Yeah.
on for Christmas lunch. I do them,
Okay. Do we get a crown?
and there is a joke in them, and there
Thank
is
you.
a silly hat in them.
Great. Okay.
Wait, don't we cross
Yes,
hands?
that's right.
Oh, we do. Oh.
No, you
Although
give me
I
the
think
end of
we're-
yours.
I think this is an American tradition
What?
to do
No?
this because this
Yeah,
is a bit
you-
too intimate for British people.
And you
we
hold
do.
it, you reach
Oh,
across
here.
to each
Oh,
other.
okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Ready?
this is as near as it
Here we
gets
go.
to physical
Ready?
contact
Two.
for us.
Three.
Nice
All right.
bang.
Now I
nice
have
bang.
yours.
All right.
There's one on the floor.
Thank you.
you.
I'm going to read
All right.
the joke.
I like that it smells like gunpowder. Since we're doing Christmas things, I think you should open your present that I have for you.
This is fantastic.
And so
my
creepy.
God. Yeah. I love this so much.
Yep. Yes.
Oh,
This is absolutely. Did you do this yourself? This is fantastic. This has to
Yep.
be. Oh,
That
this
is
so
so
good.
good.
That's our royal portrait.
It's fantastic. Thank you so
You
much.
are welcome.
It's
Show it.
just
Show the camera.
gorgeous.
It's just
It's
a
just
beautiful.
gorgeous.
Just a beautiful.
I've
You
never
look
seen
super
anything
creepy in
like
it. You're really,
Thank you.
really creepy.
Just a little
Yeah.
dolly. Just a little dolly.
It's so good. It's so good.
Every time I look at it, I smile.
Obviously, we need to put it up here. We need to have it behind us at all times.
Yeah, no, they don't have
So
those at Mar-a-Lago.
Inspirational. It needs a giant gold frame, obviously.
Very
but
strange. There's
of-
so much to discuss.
There's so much.
So
to
It's
much
really
to
wonderful.
discuss.
Thank you.
Great job.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. Great job, everybody. This is lovely.
Yeah,
I'm
no, they don't have
beside
those.
myself.
They don't have those in Mar-a-Lago.
I'm beside myself.
I love it.
And here come the police. So I'll see you guys later.
They're coming. That's actually an ambulance. They're coming to take you away. I've asked for special white coats,
Thank you.
and they're
This is fair.
yeah.
This is fair.
Okay, happy holidays.
Happy
Merry
holidays.
Christmas.
Happy holidays.
I guess we can say that now for the next 4 years.
Yes, yes.
We can.
Alone.
We're now joined by Dan Bucatinsky, who might just be America's favourite on-screen gay husband. He's best known for the Emmy-winning turn as James Novak on Scandal, but Dan has been lighting up our screen for years. He's appeared on nearly every iconic TV show you have ever seen. He's in Hacks, he was on Curb Your Enthusiasm, Weeds, Friends, Will and Grace, Frasier, Grey's Anatomy, just to name a few. And you can now see him in the new smash Our Little Secret, alongside Lindsay Lohan and Kristen Chenoweth, which swept the holiday season on Netflix. In fact, last week, it was globally the #1 film being watched. And though initially hesitant about the role, Dan took it on and in true form made himself unforgettable. Dan, welcome.
Have you ever met Sam before?
No, I'm a huge fan, so I'm kind of freaking out right now.
Thank you.
I'm so happy to meet you.
Oh, no, likewise. I'm so happy to meet you too. Oh my God, I'm so excited. You just wrote a fantastic piece for the Daily Beast on how you went back and forth on this role and said yes, which you weren't expecting to. Please explain for those who haven't read the piece. Explain yourself,
I know.
Dan.
How dare I? Just like I went back and forth, I was gonna say no to ever appearing on this podcast, but then I had to. No. Of
Just
course
say
not.
yes.
But no, it was after the strike, and we had all been beaten down by picketing on the Writers Guild side and on the actors side, and we just wanted to get back to work. Nobody quite understood where the business was going to go, and opportunities were very, very slim. And speaking of which, I was sent this script to play Kristen Chenoweth's husband, and I was so excited to flip through the pages and find out all the ways in which we would be, in my mind, darting off to Rome and having a second honeymoon and having all these fabulous scenes together. As it turns out, when you're in a romantic comedy that stars Lindsay Lohan, it's not about you. So I flipped through the script and I realized that for the most part, my character appears in the background of many, many scenes and didn't have a lot to say. And, I kept thinking in the back of my mind that old adage, there's no such thing as small parts, just small actors. I admitted to myself that I was a small actor and that this, in fact, was a very small part. And I thought, what am I going to do? I mean, I can't go spend a month in Atlanta just sort of in the background, can I? I didn't have the ego strength for it. And so I talked about it with my reps and they're like, well, do you want to get back to work or do you want to maybe hold out for something better? And many of them were saying, yeah, you should definitely pass. This is too small a part for you and you shouldn't do it. And it just fed my negative internal critic, like, what will people think? How far he's come, how far he's fallen, all these just crazy, grandiose ideas, like anybody's thinking of me anyway. They're not. And I remembered something that was in my old boss, Shonda Rhimes' book, which was, all about saying yes. And it made me realize that, like, this opportunity to spend 3.5 weeks just working, just being with other actors, just being on the set will have some kind of additive, sort of restorative powers to me. I certainly hoped. And I just said yes. I'm going to go. I'm going to make the most of it. And as most people said to me, like, you're going to wind up making it better than it is anyway. You're just going to feel it. And the minute I got to Atlanta and I met Kristen and we started working together, we started to fill it. We just filled the empty spaces and the relationship. And it became one of the most satisfying experiences for me, mainly because of what I said, that feeling of just doing, being in it, not the end result, not the like, oh, did you see Dan in that movie? He's got like no lines, which is the kind of thing my mother would say every time I'm in anything. My mom's like, I thought your part would be bigger. Yeah, well, I've been hearing that my entire life, both sadly, both at home and, I just it didn't matter anymore. It didn't matter anymore. It was about just doing. And it was such a huge lesson to push my ego out of the way.
There was a great line in the piece where you talked about how you rule yourself out of things is not by saying no once, it's by saying no repeatedly. And then you somehow rule yourself, and then people stop calling you. And it's a sort of self-perpetuating circle. Can you talk a little bit about that, especially as an actor having had the trauma of the strike and then the Writers Guild strike? I know you're in both unions. Just that long period of not working, and we're close friends, so I know how difficult you and lots of actors found that.
Yeah. We definitely did. And first of all, that it was an actual quote from Shonda's book that was all about the power of one no and what kind of ripple effect it can have as opposed to the power of a yes or continuous yeses, But all of this has to do with controllable variables and uncontrollable variables. The entertainment business is a horrible business. So few of us who are the creatives, the people who make stuff or write things or act in things, perform, create content, have no control over the outcome of what we do, whether we will be hired, whether the thing we get hired to do is going to last more than one or last more than a season or get canceled after, two. Those are all things out of our control. And so what happens is we become unbelievably obsessed with this false narrative that we have more control than we do. The only control we have is to say yes or no. To say yes or no to ourselves if we decide we want to sit down and write for 30 minutes and just do it, or the power to say yes to a job that is offered to us that we think is beneath us or too hard or out of town when we don't want to leave town. There's all these variables that we don't control. And after the strike, talk about uncontrollable variables. Like we just felt powerless. We would just walk in circles around the studios. Like, talk about a metaphor. We spoke our truth on the placards that we walked with, but we had no control over what was being negotiated and what the future of our business was going to be. And am I whining? I sound like I'm whining.
No, not at all. Wait a second. Actually, I want to know how you know each other.
I was a fan of Joanna's because I was obsessed with, and am still, Project Runway. And so there was a very, very well-viewed season of Project Runway All-Stars where Joanna was the mentor, and a lovely one at that. And my husband and I were just like, oh my God, I love her. She's so glamorous and so smart. And then I was lucky enough in the last season that I was in Scandal to be invited as the entire cast of Scandal and all the Washington, D.C. shows, Veep and House of Cards, were invited to the White House Correspondents' Dinner exactly 10 years ago. Joanna was, I guess, editor of a magazine called Cosmo, I think. I'm sort of teasing you, but Joanna was sort of was running the world over there.
Just that little old thing.
That little old Cosmo.
Just whatever. Cosmo.
And invited like a third of the cast, including Jeff Perry and myself. And I was so honored and excited. And the moment I arrived in that lobby in DC and Joanna pulled through those electric doors and walked through, I was like, Mama! I'm so excited. And Joanna, you take it from there. I stalked you.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that because I was watching Scandal obsessively, Sam. I loved it and was very excited to be taking the cast to the White House Correspondents. For those who haven't been, it is literally the world's longest dinner. It's like 4 hours you're stuck at the table because of all the security, because the president's there, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought I have to find someone that I can sit next to for 4 hours who I know is going to be amusing. And literally, I've never done this before, but I became obsessed by Dan's character, partly because he was a journalist. I started reading up about Dan Bucatinsky, who is he, and I thought, I'm going to sit next to him. If anyone can keep me entertained for 4 hours, it's him. We sit down at the dinner and we do not stop talking for 4 hours. We carry on talking until I think 3 in the morning, and we basically end up having a wonderful weekend, and then we sort of became new best friends.
Yeah, we did not
I think
stop.
that's fair to say.
We started talking that weekend and have not stopped talking for 10 years.
We really haven't stopped talking. He's one of my closest friends. I love his husband, Don. I love his kids. He loves my kids. It's so much fun.
Wait a second. Do you vacation together? Do you do things like, do you go on a boat together?
We sort of do.
We do a lot of staying at each other's apartments. It's so much fun. But you also started something called Failure Fridays, which we also wrote about at The Beast and took off, and all sorts of celebrities in Hollywood started liking it. And this is where you post your failures on Instagram. Now, obviously, you're in a #1 movie on Netflix, so your failures are kind of in inverted commas. But what prompted you to do that?
I had been thinking a lot about how, especially during COVID, but about how much social media is sort of this, what we feel, this emotional doom scrolling, where the successes and triumphs of other people, their bodies, their bread, their cappuccinos, their awards, their dresses, you name it, every single thing that is fabulous gets posted and curated so that our version of reality becomes skewed. And by the way, I fell into that trap as well. I felt like the only things I could post are things that look the best. It's the whole reason why there are filters on our phones, to filter the actual truth into something that looks better than the truth. And one of my worst fears is that anybody see me with my shirt off. For the last 20 years, my biggest fear is that anybody, including these eyes, see me with my shirt off. So I've been showering in a turtleneck for the last 2 decades, but I felt like I needed to get over myself. And I started feeling like if we could all start to inspire one another by our setbacks, by the things that don't go so well, by our humiliations and our embarrassments and our failures, at least once a week, at least, let's start inspiring each other on how we can get up off the floor when we have a setback. Because really, the path to success is paved by failure. I mean, every single award someone wins is at the heels of dozens of projects that never saw the light of day or did not win awards. And we only hear about the good. So I really became excited about getting over my own fear of letting people with my hair down, so to speak. And I started talking about my parenting failures, my relationship failures, my work failures, all of them.
I think it is so valuable because I even find, like, having done so much press and having done so much of that stuff out in the world, it is actually very rare to even have the opportunity to talk about, like, kind of like all the hard work and all the hurdles that got you to the place where you ended up. And I think it's a really important part of the conversation because it's absolutely like you're not going to wake up one day and just automatically be at the top of your game. That road is paved with stumbles and failures. So I thank you for that work.
You know, how many times are we on the floor in a fetal position? Like, we've put a year and a half into a project that we care so deeply about, and it's dead. It's over. And getting the energy back, or the hope, or the incentive to get back on a horse and do it again, which, by the way, is the only way we can keep going. It's what life's all about. So anyway, I get very passionate about it. It's even the notion of resistance that makes us stronger. Go to the gym. Every single weight that we can't lift is only about continuing to try until eventually we can. So pushing against resistance is the only thing that makes us stronger.
I agree. It's like friction. You have to have friction in your life.
That's right. That's right.
To achieve those big highs.
They just feel bad.
You're dangerously close to sounding like a motivational speaker, so I'm going to break in and say, I want you to tell the story that you told me on the phone one day when you called up, and I couldn't really understand initially what you were saying because
Was I crying?
you were crying, you were hyperventilating, and I was like, Dan, it's okay, keep calm and carry. I was just being as British as I possibly could because I was worried you were having a panic attack, because you were. I want you to tell Sam and everybody listening what in fact had happened?
Well, what's really scary is that there have been more than one time that I've made a phone call like that to you. So are you talking about the time involving an animal?
Yes, I am. And alcohol, because it's the alcohol part which I also love here.
All right, I'm going to tell it to you in a nutshell because it's too long of a story. But my son who at the time was 16, wanted to start modeling. And I'm just so excited that he was sort of off his track of becoming a sniper and playing Call of Duty that I was like, oh my God, as a gay dad, my son wants to be a model. Like,
A wholesome career to be modeling.
please, I could totally help you to do that. Although I had to really play it cool because if he could whiff even a drop of Mama Rose in me, he would have dropped it like a hot potato. So I acted really casual and I was like, yeah, sure, we could get you some pictures and whatever you want. I mean, you drive it. I mean, I'm totally cool. I couldn't care less. Like you could do it or not do it. It's all fine with me. Meanwhile, I was like shopping for outfits and I'm totally into it. So we go to we go to my friend who's a photographer who's going to do sort of a spec shoot with him. We get there and I'm planning on art directing the entire thing. And she sends me into her kitchen. She's like, Jonah and I are going to go shoot pictures. It's better if we just create a rapport and you stay in the kitchen. Horrified, I sat in the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of rosé. It was 4 o'clock. The glasses were very small. And I had a glass, maybe two, of this little rosé. And then he had a fabulous time. They had a great photo shoot and we headed home. And he went off to volleyball and I went to take care of, when I got home, I went to take care of this green cheek conure, which is a little kind of parrot that I was taking care of for my daughter who was in Ireland. It was my only job was to take care of this bird. And I took the bird out and I was playing with it. And that's the last thing I remember because I passed out on the couch in the kitchen. And then I woke up and went in to pay some bills. And then I was like, oh, where is Kermit? Where is Kermit? I couldn't find the bird. I went looking everywhere. I could not find that bird. The cage was closed. The bird was gone. I was fit to be tied. I called Don. I called Jonah. Everyone comes home. It's dark now. We're walking with our Apple flashlights all around the house, all outside the house. And then I found feathers on the front yard. And I realized that one of the dogs had gotten Kermit. I fell to the ground, like the Kent State photo. And I burst into tears because of what I would have to tell my daughter about the failure. I couldn't even keep this bird alive. I was horrified. And Don kept saying, it's the dog's fault. Stop blaming yourself. It's the dog's fault. My son kept saying, Dad, it's okay. It's human error. It's human error. He just kept making sure I knew it's okay. You have to forgive yourself, but it's definitely human error. I was horrified. And I still haven't let it go. My daughter calls me the bird killer.
Oh my God, Kermit.
Yeah. I mean, how many times have we had to break our kids' hearts? It's going to happen many times, and it has happened many times, but that was one of the worst. And I called Joanna, and she was like, oh my God, Dan, it's a bird. You're going to look back on this. It's going to be a fun. I'm like, why are you laughing? She's like, well, because it's kind of funny. And I was horrified. But Joanna was right. Within a month, I was like writing a piece about it, which really helped me turn my perspective on it into something that could be looked at with some levity.
Everything is copy.
Everything is copy.
That is true.
Yeah, so that became one of my first Failure Fridays.
Before we wrap up, I do need to say this in the body of an interview as I stare into your eyes, that The Comeback was one of my favorite shows. And I mean, that show is a goddamn tour de force.
Well, I'm very proud of it. You're not alone. And I have to say, it's so weird. It's like I've been hearing so many people. I think people have been finding it again somehow and watching it again because
Oh, really?
season 1 was in 2005. Season 2 was in 2014. It's been 10 years since season 2. It's something I'm incredibly proud of. Lisa Kudrow and Michael Patrick King created that series. They wrote it together, but I produced it with them. And it is beloved. And I certainly understand why. I mean, she's so brilliant in it. And it's such a commentary on our business and on ego and on the fishbowl of attention and wanting attention. And it goes back to the grandiosity of it all, which, I certainly shared when not wanting to do our little secret. And it wound up being one of the best experiences I ever had. So I encourage people to say yes to almost everything. Just like HBO said yes to the comeback idea. They had no idea what we were talking about when we pitched that show. And Carolyn Strauss sat there and said, I don't know what you guys are talking about, but why don't you just do it? And you don't get that kind of comment anymore. I was very lucky.
And those opportunities are so rare to like create something that is, it's like the type of show that's a jewel box.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like a beautiful, rare, like it's like a little green bird of rare perfection. Like, but it is, it's a beautiful gem.
It's specific and it's just edgy and it really, it's just, there's nothing like it. I'm working now on season 4 of Hacks, and the creators of that show are such huge fans of the comeback, and certainly derived some piece of inspiration, I think, a little bit in terms of driving forward with a female driven, entertainment focused show. And they've done such a fabulous job with that show, if I may say so myself.
Amazing. It's amazing. Yeah, truly amazing.
And also, it's a tribute to the power of just keeping on. Because I remember in the depths of COVID, when so many actors I knew thought they were never going to work again. And you and I had many sort of supportive conversations during COVID, because we were both feeling sort of, we're both extroverts. We were feeling claustrophobic. But look at you now. You're on the 4th season of Hacks, having been on the 3rd, and they've rolled out a bigger character for you. And your Netflix show with Lindsay Lohan is at #1, or your Netflix movie. So many congratulations. You just have to keep on keeping on.
Yes. Thank you. I exactly. I know. There's lots of gratitude, believe me.
Well, I adore you, and no one makes a better gluten-free chocolate chip cookie than you do.
Thank
God,
you.
I want to go to your parties. What is going on? I need to come on this like camping retreat with
You're
both of
totally invited. You're totally invited. You would love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
By the way, hiking with Dan around Beverly Hills is the best experience, because he knows where everybody lives. The air is rich with rose scent, fresh rose. Or it's like, it's, whatever the flavor of the tree is, he knows it. It's the best.
So important. I'm actually off to Kerry Washington's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame ceremony. I mean, it's about time, right?
That's cool.
It is about time. I'm amazed she doesn't have one, but you two will have your star down.
Well, I either will or I won't. How about that? But I'll be wearing clothes. I will not have my shirt off, I guarantee you, at any point, before, during, or after. Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me, guys.
How much fun is Dan?
So fun. You are friends with everyone. I'm not joking. I do think that this podcast should be subtitled, "How do you two know each other again?" And that's just my first question every time.
Well, I'm very fond of Dan, because he really was someone I'd watched on telly, and I thought, I want to be friends with that actor, because I somehow conflated the character and the actor, but he just turned out to be the best. He's one of the best people.
I like it when people become friends as adults and you kind of turn to someone after a dinner and go, should we be friends? Like, should we email and call each other and hang out a bit? It's kind of cool. I don't know. I love it.
It is cool. And also, one of the things I find really interesting is that friendship, it's so important, and yet it's really not discussed. People are obsessed about romance. There are all these sort of dating apps, but actually one of the hardest and most important things is friendship. It's so important to stay social. It's one of the things that prevents Alzheimer's. Actually, if you're an older person, meeting a younger person is one of the most important things you can do for your brain.
Yes.
It's challenging. It's super important to keep you mentally alert.
And then when they don't suspect it, you steal their soul and you become younger yourself. And you take
I
their
wish
skin.
that was true. Yeah. You take their skin. Yeah, that's very true. That's very true.
That's my holiday thought.
Well, you're my new midlife friend. I think I can say midlife because you're younger. So I'm taking some of your years.
Let's do it.
That was weird, wasn't it? Because British people shouldn't say things like that. Did I just display some vulnerability there? I hope not. Embarrassing. So don't need any friends.
My cat is so happy. I need nothing. I don't need anything.
I am an island.
Just a jar of mincemeat.
That's not your cat, Susan Collins, though.
Oh, that's Jerry.
That's Jerry.
Yeah.
Jerry Nabler?
Yeah, Jerry, my cat, Jerry Nadler. Somehow Susan Collins is a funny name for a cat, and Jerry Nadler is the worst name for a cat.
I think I need to get a cat and call it Kash Patel. I think that would be a good name for a cat.
If you have been, thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed the episode, please like, subscribe, and share it with everybody you know. And some people you don't. See people randomly on the subway, make them listen.
Share it with strangers. And send us an email if you desire at beastpod@thedailybeast.com. Joanna and I promise that we read them over a cup of tea every afternoon around 4 p.m. So keep them coming.
And if you haven't subscribed to The Daily Beast yet, you really must. There's some wonderful, wonderful journalism, a lot of which we discuss on here. So just go to thedailybeast.com/membership/podcast.
And as my muse once said, be best.
Oh, Sam, maybe in 2025 you will remember it's Be Beast.
You're being your best in this
I'm certainly
beautiful portrait.
We need to hang it somewhere very special.
Oh, very special.
And
very special.
I think these will be on sale in Times Square pretty quickly.
It's a hot item.
Very hot item. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.